Officials from the National Transportation Safety Board in the U.S. gave an update about an hour ago on their investigation into the crash of the Air Canada Express jet in New York last night. The chair of the NTSB describing how American investigators will coordinate their efforts with their counterparts from Canada.
We'll be working with the Transport Safety Board of Canada, and we work with ICAO under Annex 13. So the Transport Safety Board of Canada is the state of will come from Canada to represent Canada, and they'll have technical advisors with them from the operator and I believe from the manufacturer as well. And we coordinate on scene just like other investigations, just like we would participate in foreign investigations as well. They are also part of our team for fact-finding.
The two Air Canada pilots died when the Bombardier aircraft collided with a fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia just before midnight Eastern last night. Well, for more analysis on this investigation, we're joined by Dennis Grossi, a former investigator with the NTSB, and we reached him in Virginia. Thank you very much for joining us, Dennis. And based on what you've seen and heard, how would you describe what happened?
Well, it looks like we have a situation where there is a collision between a fire truck and an aircraft, and visibility was not a factor. So that draws us to communications. Who was told to do what and when, and of course the aircraft has the right of way. He's on landing roll. That runway's his. Any vehicle that enters that runway has to be cleared by air traffic control. And that would have been the case here also. So now it really comes down to, what communications were delivered, were they understood, was it clear, so that'll be putting the pieces together. One of the exercises will be to, for the NTSB, to do a position time history for the aircraft and the fire truck and correlate that to the communications to try to, get a clear picture of a sequence of events and to pull that all together to see what lessons can be learned and how to prevent this type accident in the future.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things as I hear your answer, and I say this in a complimentary way, is it's a reminder how painstaking the NTSB is because, as you well know, there is air traffic control audio out there already, and it pretty clearly shows, and no one's disputed the veracity of this, that the controller cleared the plane to land and cleared that fire truck to cross the runway. So that seems to be pretty clearly a mistake. But as you say, there are other things to do to dig a little deeper in this. As you kind of assess what we know to this point, what do you think may have been happening in the tower leading up to the crash?
You know what, that's hard to say with the little bit of information we have so far about the conditions in the tower, exactly how many controllers there were, the proficiency of the specific controllers that were involved. Were they training status? Were they seasoned controllers? All those are big questions that will be answered by the investigation. So it will focus on the air traffic side of it. As far as the, typically investigation would look at the operational aspects. In other words, the flight crew how was their performance? But in this case, they landed the aircraft successfully and were doing their landing rollout. And during the rollout, they're concentrating on keeping the aircraft on the center line and decelerating the aircraft using thrust reverse and brakes. So they're focused straight down the runway. And for the crash fire rescue people, I'm sure they were focused on the the runway and the taxiways ahead of them, and they did ask for clearance to cross the active runway, and they did receive it. Like you said, there's no dispute about that. And then, unfortunately, too late. They were told to stop, stop, stop. That it was too late.
We have
So,
less than a minute left, but I do want to ask you about something that your former agency talked about today, the Airport Surface Detection System, or ASD. Can you give us a quick explanation of what that is and why it's important?
Well, that's going to give the position, information to the controllers, so they know what vehicles are traveling and what where the aircraft, is on the runway. And of course, that would be key information for the controllers to reference before they give permission for the crash fire rescue aircraft or truck to cross the active runway. It'll be crucial.
Dennis Grossi, a former investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board. Thanks for speaking with us this evening.
Okay, you're welcome.
We're joined now by Kathy Fox, a former chair of the Transportation Safety Board of Canada, former vice president of operations for NAV Canada. Kathy, what are your thoughts on this tragic incident?
Well, it is an air traffic controller's and an executive responsible for air traffic control's worst nightmare. Fortunately, there are many millions of safe takeoffs and landings, but as I've often said, it only takes one bad one, and this was horrific.
You were an air traffic controller in your past, and it's the kind of job that most of us look at and can't imagine how controllers deal with the pressures and the complexity. How do you?
Well, air traffic controllers are trained. The job is very proceduralized, and so it's you learn to deal with that stress, and it's part of actually what is attractive about the job is the fact that it's very different, and you see the results of your of the work by moving traffic efficiently, but safety is first.
One of the things that's been clear in our analysis that we've heard from many people in the last hour and a half of the program is that there is much more investigating to be done. But simultaneously, it is very clear that an air traffic controller gave clearance for this jet to land and gave clearance for a fire truck to cross the runway. So given your history in aviation as involved with the Transportation Safety Board and being an air traffic controller, what sort of questions do you have?
Well, I think, first of all, the investigators, both the NTSB and working with them, the TSB investigators, have to arrive on site with an open mind. Yes, there are certain facts that are known, but the bigger issue is, why did it happen? And so the investigators will be looking at things like the visibility at the airport at the time. They'll look obviously at air traffic control in terms of the staffing at the time. What were the procedures? What was the phraseology? What equipment was in the tower that could have helped forewarn the controller about this potential collision? They'll look at the air traffic controller's experience, training, whether he was fatigued. So everything, they'll look at that. They'll also look at the training and the procedures for the drivers of the fire trucks, and how familiar they were with airport procedures. And again, what they would have been able to see and what they would have been aware of at the time that they were crossing the runway. So I think the important thing is we don't want to jump to conclusions, notwithstanding the evidence is there now, but really look at all the factors at play, because if we don't find out what were the underlying causes and contributing factors, then people won't be in a position to take the appropriate remedial measures to make sure it never happens again.
The U.S. investigator here, the NTSB, is formidable. As far as I know, has an excellent reputation. It often helps agencies around the world. So what can the TSB, the Canadian Transportation Safety Board, offer in an investigation like this?
Well, I think first of all, it's to represent Canadian interests in this investigation. In that, under the ICAO protocols, The country, the state where the accident happened will lead the investigation, but other states, the state of manufacture, the state of the operator, the registry of the aircraft, they also have an interest both in participating in the investigation and finding out and assisting with what can be learned. So the Transportation Safety Board team will be there to provide a conduit between the NTSB and the operator, the manufacturer, and other technical experts that may be called upon. And of course, the TSB's experience is, and the NTSB have worked often together on investigations. And this is one situation where, more hands, more thoughts and perspectives that can be brought to the investigation, the better it is.
Kathy Fox, really nice speaking with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.